Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Warrior Within, a new journey. This is the second episode of the season, and the reason why it's a new journey is I'm going to be trying to do more live episodes because I would like to talk to, people who are passionate about the subject area or are professionals in the subject area. It still talks about sensitive topics. So, with that being said, listener discretion is advised. The opinions that are shared in this broadcast are my opinions and the guests' opinions only. They do not represent the opinions of the network or anyone else. They're ours and ours solely. Please do not seek medical advice from this program. These are stories personally. They're personal stories. It's topics that I or the guest or both are passionate about. And I am very, very honored to have today's guest on my show. She is a colleague of mine through Cosmos Creative Television, a dear friend, and I had the honor of having her be my sponsor for this show last season. She also did the theme song of this show, The Warrior Within. So without further ado, may I introduce you to Diane Call.
Hello, Jamie.
Hello, thank you so much for being on my program.
Oh, thank you for having me on this Sunday evening.
Yeah, it's a little late in the evening. I'm not used to doing live shows with this particular program. I'm so used to doing it with my other programs, and I just wanted to take this program to the next level. So thank you so much for being here. I will say to the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comments, and we will try to answer them the best way that we can. Again, please do not ask for medical advice. Go to a professional for medical advice, but we can answer the questions in the best way we know how.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And, me being a therapist, there's that fine line of, giving helpful information online versus, medical advice. So, yeah.
Okay. So I guess I should ask, today's topic is emotional abuse and recovery from emotional abuse. Can you give the audience, if they don't know what emotional abuse is, as some sort of a definition?
Yeah, I think of it as, when we hear about physical abuse, it's, the body is hurt. So you just translate that to emotional abuse, somebody's emotional state, emotional well-being is being, I'm almost reluctant to say harmed because that kind of implies that it's permanent, but it's certainly hurt and can throw people really off balance and to feel badly versus feeling joy in life. So that's how I look at it. And to me, it's like emotional and mental abuse. It's one and the same. It's so connected.
And a lot of times, from my experience and observation, I guess you would say, because I'm not a medical professional by any means, but is that it's not just a significant other that can do it to you. It can be parents, it can be siblings, it can be so-called friends, colleagues, it can be any number of people.
Yeah, I think it's so pervasive. And the thing about that strikes me about emotional abuse and mental abuse is that it's invisible, and it can be really hard to nail down and to prove. And yeah, people will do that to one another, and it's typically an empath, you know, that will be the target of somebody who would tend to abuse, and I think, I don't know, it just seems to happen more with women, and my thought, this is just my opinion, is, we're trained to be good girls. We're conditioned to be good girls. Women don't speak up, and women are supposed to tolerate a lot, and, oh, boys are just being boys kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I've experienced that in my lifetime. I've had relatives to tell me, you know, from my situation when I was in a relationship with somebody who was doing that to me, oh, you know, it is what it is. They're just being a guy. And
Yeah.
I've learned, I have taken a long, hard road, and I have learned that that's not the case. Like, you know, that's not the case at all.
I know it can take so long to learn how to say no. I know in my life, I look at myself, I'm like, how many decades old am I? And I'm finally learning how to set boundaries and say no to certain behaviors. It blows my mind. And just to see how conditioned we can be.
Exactly. I know that for me, and I'm still working on it. It's a process. Um,
Yeah.
I went through this, you know, with a significant other, my ex fiance, like over 20 years ago, and I'm
Mhm.
still recovering from it. That's how long it has been for me. But I've also had colleagues at, you know, different jobs to emotionally abuse me as well. So it's an
Yeah.
ongoing process of me recovering, and that's why I apologize all the time. I'm a very apologetic person because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, and I don't want to make anybody feel lesser than what they are.
Yeah, yeah. I I used to be in that habit. I know exactly what you're talking about too. It's sort of like, oh, I'm sorry for saying sorry so much, and it's like, no, you just sort of get caught
Yeah.
in that circle. Yeah, I've had coworkers, family members, romantic relationships, different type of partnerships, creative partnerships, where it's like, whoa, wait a minute, something's not right here. And yeah.
One of the biggest things that my ex used to do to me is like downgrade me. Like he would tell me that, you know, I'm getting a communications degree because it's the easy way out and it's the easy degree to get. And I was like, you no. No, it
Yeah,
is not. I was like, you know, every degree
yeah,
is hard. It's education. You have to sit in class and you have to take tests and you have to learn all this. Every degree is hard. There is not a single easy degree out there, in my
yeah.
opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was dating a narcissist for like 9 months, and I didn't realize it at first. And one of the things that he did was he started to cut down my education very subtly, very subtly.
Mhm.
And it was as if what I went through, including getting a PhD, was, but you didn't go there. You didn't go to an Ivy League school. And it's like, wait a minute. Yeah, but yeah, there's that I kind of call it like people that emotionally abuse really try to steal your joy,
Yeah.
and minimize feeling good about, it's like you feel good about accomplishing, and an emotional abusive person will just be like, but that one thing that you did really wasn't that great, and you should have done it this way, and they just start to judge, and yeah, they're just they try to steal joy. I put the word try in front of it because I'd like to say they're not successful in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think that empaths, like you said in the beginning, that empaths are usually the target? Do you think
Mhm.
that we're such an easy target because we have our heart on our sleeve and we give so much of our hearts in the beginning?
I think so. I really think so. With empaths put other people first. And so we're more used to being selfless and taking other people's opinions into maybe too much consideration. That's kind of the other side of it. I think we can be too too accommodating, too open.
Yeah.
I know that
And I
that's
get
been true for me, is, trying to be open to every viewpoint. No, I'm not anymore.
Well, in my experience, it seems like, when you do get to that point of saying, okay, I've got to say no sometimes. Like for me, sometimes I catch myself feeling a little bit selfish. I'm like, oh, but I want to be able to help them. I want to be able to say yes to everybody, but you're going to run yourself crazy and you're going to wear yourself down if you try saying yes to everybody. I'm like still working on that aspect.
I know it's really hard to say no. It really is. It truly is. And as somebody who tends toward being emotionally abusive will play on that and then try to make you feel guilty or shame if you don't help. And that's where the abuse comes. It's, you really said no for a healthy reason, but an emotionally abusive person will be like, I can't believe you said no and you didn't help me when I really needed you. And, instead of just being mature and respecting the boundary, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, yeah.
Um, in your like personal opinion, not a medical opinion, what works for you to combat that? Like, what helps you to set boundaries?
Oh man. There's I think that the thing that's helped me the most lately, um, it's that if I'm saying no, I'm saying no for a reason, and I don't have to justify it. I don't have to explain it. And that really helps me. It's sort of like, because if I find myself in my head trying to justify and explain it, I'm going to back myself into a corner. But it's like, no, I don't want to do that, or I don't feel like doing that, or what you said wasn't nice, and owning that, instead of trying to go, well, and being wiggly about it.
I've noticed that since, becoming a mom and being the mom of a child that has had special needs in the past, that kind of has pushed me into the realm of being able to say no a little bit easier, because I have to tell people I'm a mom. I have to think of my kids first, and that kind of
Yeah.
combats that for me. It helps me to be able to say no more often. Like, hey, I got to do this with my kids. I have this,
Yeah.
and it has made it a little bit easier for me. But I know before I became a mom, it was really hard to say no to things, and I was struggling with that. But
Yeah.
meeting my husband, I love him to pieces. He's a wonderful person. I'm going to brag a little bit here because he needs to be bragged about. He's a
Yeah.
wonderful husband, and he's a wonderful dad. And we're the exact opposite with our attitudes, and that kind of has helped me too. Like, I'm like, man, I need to be more like my husband when it comes to things like this. And I kind of just get advice from him. I'm like, I know you're not a medical professional, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely. And so is he more like unapologetic? So he makes up his mind about something, and yeah. Yeah. That's one of my
hey,
favorite words lately, is unapologetic.
he just I mean, he says sorry when he means it, when he needs to say
Yes.
sorry, like when he's done something wrong. But he makes up his mind, and he's like, well, that's just how it is, that's how it's got to be. This is what it is. And he doesn't
Yeah.
apologize for it. I was like, I really, really wish I can get to that point one of these days.
I know. I was raised Catholic in the Midwest, and as I think, especially with my generation being raised Catholic in the Midwest, it was very like, you know, I just found myself apologizing even for existing sometimes. I mean, it would get to that point of um, like really thinking that I exist for others, because in a way that was kind of ingrained in me as a child, and it's nice to not be that way anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And some people I think do expect that.
Yeah. I know that like some of my past I don't talk about it a whole lot, but I was a vice president in an organization that was called Students Against Abuse, and I know that like
Yeah.
some of the abuse that we would talk about would be emotional. It wasn't just like, drug abuse or anything like that. It would be other forms of abuse, like either domestic violence or, emotional abuse or what have you. We did discuss other forms of abuse. It was kind of like a program for us to help other students, so that they could talk with their peers and feel better about things.
And what did you see the most? Like, did you see patterns when you were, in that environment?
I think when you're in university life, at least for me, I can't speak for everyone, but I think when you're in university life, a lot of times you're like, 6 hours away from home, or you're far enough away from home that the college becomes your family, so to speak, and you have to rely upon them to help you. And a lot of times things get swept under the carpet because the college doesn't want to be seen as bad or,
Yeah.
at fault for anything. I'm not saying that that was the case at my university, but I have seen that. And a lot of times students don't feel comfortable enough speaking up because they're afraid that it's just going to get swept under the carpet.
Oh, that happens a lot, doesn't it? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. Oh, yeah. Universities are, I don't know if it's a default that they have just in general, but yeah, it's sort of like, no, that this image must be kept up. This doesn't happen here, folks.
Yeah.
Look the other way. Yeah, I think I've experienced that on a personal level of, well, what do you mean that person's doing that? This person seems fine. It's like, well, I'm getting some abuse here, and I think sometimes it's just like there's an image that needs to be upheld and people don't want to look. And I think that kind of, I guess what I'm getting at is even the individual who's doing the abuse is keeping up an appearance.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. I got that a lot at the university, when my relationship, a lot of our mutual friends didn't want to believe that this person was capable of doing that to me. And it was just an ugly thing that happened and they didn't want to face it. And, I understand that. Like, I'm not mad at them for that, but
Yeah.
I lost some friends because of that. And, I just had to keep it in my mind, okay, well, were they really, truly my friends if they couldn't be by my side and help me through that? The people who helped me through that situation, I see as loyal and true friends.
And I'm guessing they didn't judge you for speaking up or how you were feeling.
Yeah, like I'm still friends with some of them. Like there's still friends with me 20 years later.
Yeah.
So they're good people. people. They're good people. They're very loyal. And I'm like, thanks for putting up with me and all of my craziness. I appreciate it.
We all have craziness, don't we?
Yeah. Helps the day,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Can you speak of any personal experience? Like, are you comfortable talking about any instances where you've experienced emotional abuse, like any stories?
I think there are some avenues I'll steer away from just because they are really like really personal.
Yeah, that's
Um,
understandable.
yeah, but I can certainly speak to the relationship that I was in. It was quite subtle, and it was sort of like they talk about the love bomb. You meet somebody and you are the best thing since sliced bread, and they just really, really lay it on thick and lay it on thick, and you think, oh, I've met blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, this person did this to me. And once the relationship was established, that's when the slow kind of drip, drip, drip of, just comments about my friends, comments about clothes I was wearing, is my hair wavy that day or straight that day? And just like these subtle little, like, you're going to wear that?
Yeah.
Or, the big thing with this person was he knew my vulnerabilities. He knew what were my very sensitive trigger points. And he would set things up where then, he would sort of like rub salt in that wound and then judge me for having feelings about that. And to me, that is like one of the number one indicators of emotional abuse. And I was in it. And it's sort of like, if somebody doesn't respect your wounds and instead wants to rub salt in the wounds and then judge you for being hurt or being upset, that's abusive. And I was certainly in that for, a good 9 months. And it's so hard to really see it when it's happening. It's just such a strange thing, because I think with being in an emotionally abusive relationship, they also give you a lot of good stuff. He would say just enough, and then boom, hurt. And then he'd say just enough, and then boom, hurt. So yeah, that's a big one with me. If someone doesn't respect my trigger points, see you later.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can understand that. What has worked for you to overcome that or to get through that?
Well, with this one particular relationship, stand-up comedy really, I got an 8-minute routine out of this guy. An 8-minute, and I had so much fun, not only lambasting him, but lambasting me too. Like, what the hell was I thinking? I kind of made fun of myself being a feminist, which I am. And it's like, how did a feminist wind up with a guy like this? And I had so much fun writing that. And it was all true. And it was all based on pain and in pain. But somehow doing stand up and writing and then performing it in front of an audience many times, it was sort of like I went from being isolated, feeling alone, to all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, there are other people out there that have gone through something similar. And feeling that connection. I don't know, there was tremendous healing. And I've talked with other female comics in particular, and they say the same thing. Somehow when you do comedy and you take your pain and you turn it into laughter, it is even more than writing a song. It's just mind-blowing how healing it is. So I would say number one, that's what truly got me through that last relationship.
Yeah, it's important to like find something to focus on, I think, to get you through it. For me, a lot of what you said, the same thing for me, in my past relationship, he would put down my career endeavors. He would put down
Yeah.
pretty much everything about me. He would break
Yeah.
me down to the bare minimum. And he started putting down my friends, like my friend
Mhm.
back home, not our mutual friends, but my friend from back home. And I'm like, you don't even know them. Why are you putting them down? You have never even met them. It's not
Right.
for you to make judgment. And like he started off by, complimenting me. You're so pretty. And no, you're not, you're not fat or anything, because I always worried about my weight. That was the biggest thing for me, is I always worried about my weight. Like my weight fluctuates, and I've
Like
just
most women, yeah.
I just, I appreciate who I am now, whether
Yeah.
I'm, whatever size I am, I appreciate it. But he would compliment me. And then when it got to the ugly part of our relationship and this
Mm.
all started coming out of the woodwork, he would, you know, no, you haven't lost weight. Whenever I would be like, yeah, I think I lost a pound, and get all excited about it. And he'd be like, no, you haven't lost any weight. You're same size. And like, he would just put me down left and right.
Yeah. Trying to
And
steal your joy. Yeah.
exactly. And like, I had a 4.0 whenever I first started at the university. I worked very hard on my studies. I locked myself in my room in between classes. I would study, study, study. Had a 4.0. I had every intention on the valedictorian medal or whatever they gave out there, because I wanted to be at the top of my class. And no, he drugged me down, and I lost to that 4.0 grade point average. And that's the biggest thing that I regret.
Oh,
I really wish that I would have paid more attention to my studies and less attention to him. And he
yeah.
knew that. He
Oh.
knew that. He knew that, and he drugged me down.
And with you, was it real subtle too, kind of like how I was describing, where it's like a little comment here or there, and it's like a slow drip, drip, drip kind of thing?
It was in the beginning, and then it
Yeah.
started getting really, really ugly toward the end. And
Mm.
like, me and him had broken up a few times, and I just kept going back like a
Yeah.
glutton for punishment, because, I had it in my mind that, well, maybe everything will be okay this time.
Right.
Maybe he's changed. And like, he would say enough things to make me think that he had changed, but no, that was not the case at all. And like you, I found something to help me get through it. I played jazz guitar for the jazz ensemble, and I'd set it on a few different shows. And that's kind of what helped me get through it, is focusing on that and my poetry. If I wouldn't have had that, like, I don't think I could have made it through it as well.
Yeah, I think creativity and art is so important, and I know for me, and it sounds like it was the same with you, when you're going into music and all that, it's sort of like you're reconnecting with yourself again,
Yeah.
because I know that's, and I still am, you know, like 3 years later, I'm still like, it's like, no, I am aligned within myself. You know what I mean? Versus somebody trying to garble all that up.
Yeah, I think that, one of our friends, mutual friends, Ro Evans, I will give a shout out to Ro Evans.
Yay, bro.
She always says music is medicine, and I believe that with my whole heart. And I
Yeah,
think that art
me
is
too.
medicine, and good friendships is medicine. Like, if you can be in a community with like souls, then that's going to make you so much healthier. I know
Yeah.
that I was kind of down and pretty depressed before I met, you all in Cosmos. And I'm like, wow, there's people out there
Yeah.
on Cosmos even that have like opinions and like souls. And it's a wonderful community. I love it so much.
And have been through so much, so many women in our community have been through, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. But
I'll
yeah, I
let
think, healing thyself is so important because no one's gonna do it for us other than us. I really, really believe that.
Yeah, exactly. Like it took me a long time to get to this point, but
Mhm.
I've realized, my self-worth now.
Yeah,
And I still have my doubts. I'm human, I still have
yeah,
my doubtful days. I'm like, "Oh, am I saying this right? Do I look okay?" I still doubt myself, but I try to not let that voice of self-doubt leak in. I try very hard to not let that happen, but it still does it every now and again.
yeah, I think we all have that, I mean, it's sort of like we have these little, demons that just or old ghosts, as I call them, that just will creep up from time to time. And, it's sort of like, as you're talking, I'm thinking, well, it just seems, this is going to sound weird. It seems better that at least we know it's happening. We can control it and work on it versus somebody doing it to us, where that is just so painful. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
making sense there.
No, you're making perfect sense. You are. You're making perfect sense. Um, there's quite a few people in the audience that,
Yeah,
are agreeing with what we're saying. And I appreciate you all being here. I can't
yeah.
name everybody. There's so many of you, but thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. It means so much to me. Um, I like I said in the beginning, it's not just, romantic relationships that this can happen in. It
Mhm.
also can happen with, work relationships or people that consider themselves to be your friend. I know that in quite a few jobs that I've had people to downgrade me. I've had people to like try to stab me in the back, so to speak. And it's not a fun position to be in. And
It's
I've
not.
I've quit many jobs because of that. And I'm like, why am I the person that feels the need to quit when I'm not the one doing it?
I know. Yeah, I know. I think that's like an eternal question, isn't it? Because sometimes I think, I mean, I I dabbled in music for many years when I lived in Chicago, when I lived in Athens, and I would find myself in these just really toxic situations with collaborators. And I was gone. I stepped away, and I stepped away from doing music for years because it was so painful. And it sort of reminded me of what you're saying. It's like, why was I the one to step away? But I had to. I just had to give myself that distance and heal, and coming back to it now, I'm very, very particular. Um, my guard's up more just because it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
gonna stop me this time, but I'm still watching.
Yeah, I kind of watch my back and I watch who I trust, and that's
Yeah.
sad to say. I mean, I
Mhm.
really wish it didn't have to be that way. I wish we could just,
Um,
trust with our whole hearts in people, but the world is the way that the world is, unfortunately.
yeah, I know. And I've seen you a lot of your posts about like friends not being happy if you have an accomplishment or succeed. And
Yeah.
that can be like so many different degrees or maybe on a spectrum in a way, but, I've been in situations like that too, where even friends try to downgrade,
Yeah.
an accomplishment. It's like, well, that really is a form of emotional abuse.
Yeah, and my mom, like, I love my mom. Another shout out to my mom. Um, uh,
Hi,
beautiful
Jamie's
woman,
mom.
beautiful woman. Love her to pieces. My parents are awesome. Hello, my parents. I love you both very much. But the biggest thing that my mom always says, she's like, you're so talented. And she's like, I'm not telling you these things because I'm your mom and I have to. I'm telling you these things because they're the truth. A lot of times people put you down because they're jealous of what
Mhm.
you are able to accomplish. She's like, you're so talented with artwork and you're a beautiful person, Jamie. They're just jealous
Mhm.
of that fact. They want to be seen that way. And, my mom has always told me that from little girl on, because I've been drawing since freehand since I was like 6 or 8 years old.
Oh,
And
wow.
I've been given a God given, and I appreciate it and I respect it. And, you
Yeah.
know, my mom just always said that. She said, people will downgrade you because they're jealous of you. They're jealous that you're
Mhm.
able to accomplish something. They want to accomplish that too.
Yeah, yeah, and, you're reminding me of, something my father told me, my late father. He told me this years ago, and I still remember it. I mean, and I like to share with people. He said, how people treat you is information about them, not you." And, I mean, those words of wisdom, it's sort of like how people treat us. It's like, that's not a reflection of me. It's a reflection of that person if they can't be mature or respectful, um, or to celebrate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I love parental words of wisdom.
my mom and dad are wonderful people. Like, they're
Mm,
just, they're very supportive of me and everything that I do. And that's how I'm trying to raise my daughter. Like, I tell her, I'm like, hey, whatever you want to do for a career, that's what's in your heart to do, and I will support you 100%.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. I can
I
see
think
there's so many comments here. I can kinda see on the screen, but I don't have my
yeah,
reading glasses.
there's quite a few comments. Like, M Farwell's in here, Lorraine's in here, Madeline's in here. Like,
Ah, Madeline!
we have so many wonderful and awesome people in here. Ario is in here, and
Oh, Aria, yeah, and Lorraine, and
John's in here. Like, we have a bunch of people. Thank you so much. I
I think I
appreciate it.
saw Bob Ross earlier too.
Yeah, Bob Ross was tagging some people, which I
Oh,
appreciate. And then there's Facebook user. I think I know who that might be, but I don't want to take any guesses. So, hello, Facebook user. I
yes.
appreciate you being here.
There's a lot of Facebook users unless that's the same person. Yeah, but yeah, I think, I mean, I think the other thing about, like, with emotional abuse is I just think it's so important that we don't beat ourselves up for being in those situations, that was a big one for me. Um, I would just beat myself up. It's like, "You should know better, why didn't you pay attention to the red flags," and blah, 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 but yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's hard to see those red flags until you're the person that's on the outside looking in. And, I just
Yeah,
consider it a life lesson that
yes.
was hard earned. And all the scars that I have are hard earned life lessons, and they've made me stronger and they've made me more resilient. Um, which, I used to be so depressed that I had went through what I went through. But I'm like, you know what? If I hadn't have gone through what I went through in my past, no matter how traumatic it may be, I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't have the family that I have now, wouldn't have the friends that I appreciate now. And
Yeah,
so I had to go through all that to get to this point. Um,
I agree. Yeah,
I
it's like the
I
soul
appreciate it.
journey. Yeah. Yeah, me too. Me too. I don't have like regrets or um or just to kind of look back because yeah, it makes us who we are. And I talk about this a lot, but I love the butterfly parable. From tremendous struggle comes profound beauty. That struggle of releasing from the cocoon. Only we can release ourselves from that cocoon, and it's painful beyond painful, but what growth is on the other end, it's just beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, M. Farwell. This is funny. I'm going to put this up on the screen. It's kind of funny. I was saying that I'm over apologetic earlier because of my past. And yes, I do have M. Farwell to get me to stop apologizing, which I really appreciate, by the way. That's a good friend right there.
Yeah, yes. Oh, definitely. Yeah. That's such a great thing. It's like, like if you have spinach on your teeth or your tag is showing, like that's a good friend that's going to tell you, hey, your tag is.
Yes, most definitely. Most
Yeah.
definitely. Lorraine says it's beautiful. She loves being her. That's the most important thing to get to. That's the most important point to get to is
Yeah.
love, to love being you. It, like I said before, and I don't want to focus on me. I want to focus on you too. Because you're my guest. I don't want to just talk about me. I'm not used to talking about myself this much.
And you know what? It's okay. I'm not going to let you apologize.
Not gonna apologize, but I'm not used to it, y'all. Um, but yeah, it's very important to get to that point of loving yourself, of loving every aspect of yourself.
Yes.
That's extremely important. You've got to love yourself first before you can love anybody else fully, I think,
Yes.
because, again, my mom, brilliant woman, she told me, she's like, how do you expect to love anybody else, like to be in a relationship, if you don't love
Right.
yourself first? And I was like, you're exactly right. And here at 42 years of age, I've finally come to that realization. You have to love yourself first before you
Yeah.
love anybody else.
I agree. And, just to tag on to that, it's like, you know, I love myself, flaws and all, and I accept my flaws and I know what they are. And I love my strengths. And you know what I mean? It's like embracing, really learning just to embrace me as a whole person. And yeah, that takes years. It really does take years. And I think for me, it was being in certain situations with people or relationships with people has really brought me to this point of, you know, I'm okay.
That's that's something that I have to respect the musician, the singer Pink for, because I've noticed with her that she's like, I'm not going to conform to what the media wants me to look like. I'm not going to
Mhm.
conform to what they want me to sound like. They wanted her to sound more like another musician, Britney Spears, when she first got into the industry. And she
Mhm.
said, no, I'm not. That's not my music. That's not my brand. And this is my brand. And I'm not going to have you all tell me what to do. I'm going to stay true to myself. And, she gets her hair cut short. And I remember her saying something about her daughter, Willow. Her daughter's Willow, too.
Oh, really?
Her daughter's name is Willow. That's awesome. My daughter's name's Willow, for anybody who doesn't know. But her daughter Willow came to her one day and she's like, "Mommy, they're making fun of me because they're saying that I look like a boy." And she's like, "Honey," she's like, "do I have my hair cut short?" And her daughter's like, "Yes, you do." And she's like, "Do I look like a boy?" And she's like, "No, you don't, Mommy. You're beautiful." She's like, "Well, you are too." Like, it's
Mhm.
very important to teach that to our children, and it's important to even teach that to ourselves a lot of times.
Yeah, yeah, I think, on that larger scale of, what women should look like and, I mean, that really is a form of oppression and being conditioned to just kind of like, soul crushing stuff for women to feel like they have to fit into a certain mold like that. And I love what's happening with these younger generations. I love it. The body positivity, it's like, yes.
I
Mhm.
love that so much, and I've even noticed, like, in the film industry and even with musicians, like,
Yeah,
they're not all cookie cutter shape anymore. Like, there's a variation of different body types, and I'm loving that so much. It is
me
so wonderful.
too. Me
And
too.
that's a biggest part of emotional abuse too, I think that the media plays into it as well, because
Oh my
they're
God.
showing us all these commercials and all these makeup ads and fashion ads. Oh, okay, the models are all like the same size and they all look
Mhm.
similar, and I love that they're finally breaking that mold and they're finally getting people who look real. that
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm waiting for, and maybe it's just because I'm older, I'm waiting for it to go into like where ageism will decrease, because I think we're still a very ageist society. And it's like, okay, that's next, I hope, because because I'm older. It's like, come on.
Well, I was telling somebody the other day, I went to a heavy metal concert, and yes, I'm 42 and
Yes,
that's cool.
I love it.
I didn't crowd surf. I didn't crowd surf, but
But
give it
did you
time.
watch it?
I might do something
Yeah.
like that. You never know. Um, it's all up in the air. You never know. But I was like, hey, one of the musicians, he's a rocker. He's one of the heavy metal guitarists on stage is the same exact age as me. So I don't want to hear about it. I was like, I don't want to hear about it. Age is just a number. You do what you like to do in life. If it's
Yeah.
crowd surfing at a heavy metal concert,
Yeah.
for it. If it's dyeing your hair different colors, go for it. Age is just
Mhm.
a number. Like, you feel however old you feel. And to
Oh,
me,
absolutely.
I'm a kid at heart. Like, I like
Yeah, me
going to Build
too.
a Bear. I like going to Build a Bear. I like getting stuffed animals. Who cares?
Yeah, I still like a good Bugs Bunny cartoon, I mean Oh, absolutely, yeah. I think, I'm just waiting for society to catch up in that regard, but yeah, I mean, geez, I feel like I'm in my 20s still, and then I look in the mirror, I'm like, "No, you're not, but it's okay." But I think also being in music, there's kind of a what they call as the ceiling. And I don't pay attention to it, but I know it's there. It's like, "Oh, she's older, she's got a couple years left," and, people can tend to write, I think, especially older women off sooner. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've seen that, I hope that that changes in society in the very, very near future. I think that we might be headed in that direction. It seems, hopefully, we're
Mhm.
headed in that direction.
Yeah, we still
Um,
have Dolly.
it, I'm in hopes that that comes in the near future.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
I'm
it's
definitely
weird.
all for it. Like, I can appreciate Cyndi Lauper because like she's older than me, not gonna tell her age, but she's older than me and she
Yeah.
is the epitome of awesome in my book. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
just
Same
I
with
wanna
Dolly
be
Parton.
I wanna be Cyndi Lauper when I grow up. I wanna be just like her.
I want to be Dolly Parton.
There you go. See, she's another awesome, amazing female. Um
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think it gives hope in that regard.
yes.
Yeah.
Um Is there anything else that, like, if the audience has a question, now is the time to put it in the comment.
Yeah.
You all have had wonderful comments. I appreciate them.
Yeah.
I'll probably try to go back and read them at some
Yeah.
point. There's so many good ones to pick from. Is there anything else that
Yeah.
you would like to mention within this topic? I know that we veered off here and there, but I just
Yeah.
love talking with you so much.
I know we've had. I think we've kept the topic in mind as we've been going. I love tangents. That's what a conversation's about, right? But I think for me, maybe I'll just repeat something because I just think it's such a big indicator if somebody is being emotionally abusive towards you, and that is if they know your trigger, if they know something hurts you and they still do it, and then they judge you for being upset or having feelings. To me, that's the number one indicator that somebody is being abusive. And I've been in relationships like that, and never again, never again. Have your wounds deserve respect.
Yeah, most definitely. Like, and I realize I'm going to give a shout out again to the lovely young ladies of Orchid Times. I think that
Yeah.
they are definitely trailblazers.
Yes.
They are definitely trying to change the future, and I
Hmm.
can see them accomplishing that goal. They're amazing young ladies, and I have nothing but respect for them. Like, if any of you haven't tuned into their show, you really need to tune into Orchid Times. Wednesdays, I believe, at 7 o'clock, I want to say.
7 Eastern. Yeah.
I my schedule's so crazy I can't remember things half the time.
I love how bold they are, and I love how unapologetic they are. I love that. And I don't get to catch their show live all the time, but when I do, I'm always happy that I do. We both have been guests on their show too.
Yes, although Willow, my daughter, stole the spotlight, but that's okay. I will take the back burner to her any day. It's fine.
Oh, she's adorable. Oh my God. We
She
all
she
embrace your daughter.
Oh, she's something else. Love her to pieces. She is the next, she's gonna accomplish this and become famous one of these days. She might have her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. You never know. Or
Oh, I love that.
become the first female president. You never know.
It will happen one day. It just will happen one day. And maybe if I could give a plug for my show.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah, I have a biweekly show called The Pause Button. It's every other Tuesday at 4:30, which I know is kind of a weird time, but you can always catch the replay. But yeah, I've talked a good bit about setting emotional boundaries, talked about gaslighting, just really setting healthy boundaries. And I've guided meditations that I hope would be helpful. And yeah, just wanted to give a little plug there. We've got the Honorable Judge Stern as part of the show, and Renee Yaworski is the director. And it's just kind of I want to make it kind of a fun show, even though the topics are heavy. I want to bring some levity, just because I think we need to just have some lightness.
Yeah. Yeah, like this show, I had to take a break from this show for a little while because, the topics that I cover on here are so sensitive that it was starting to get to me a little bit. And I just had to take a
Yeah.
break. Like, I had to take a breather, so to speak, because they're very heavy topics which need to be talked about. And I appreciate your show, The Pause Button, because it's going to help a lot of people. And it's a really wonderful show. And I'm glad that you plugged it. I have a hard time remembering all the shows in the cosmos. There's so many good
Oh, I
ones.
know. And I'm usually really bad about like plugging my stuff, but when you talk about Orchid-Times, I was like, oh yeah, I have a show too.
Yes, yes. Diane's awesome. She's a musician. She has a show called The Pause Button. She's
I have a CD out.
she has a CD out called Happy Fish and Other Delights. Like, check
Happy
that
Fish and
out.
Other Delights. Yeah.
We're gonna
Never
plug
too late, folks. Never too
Diane
late.
here. Diane's awesome. It looks like Dana Ricker has a question for you.
Oh,
Before we
Dana.
go. If you are a woman suffering abuse and you feel you have no place to turn, what do you do?
Well, there's always a place to turn. That I'm going to say. It could be a very close friend. It could be a local community center or shelter. There's always a place to turn. Community centers have very low cost counseling. Sometimes it is free. So there's always a place to turn to. I just want to, because there just always is. It's never hopeless. There's so many community resources, and luckily a lot of them did not take a hit over COVID, at least in my area. They're still thriving. So yeah,
Yeah,
I hope
like
that answers your question.
that's a very good answer to his question. And I'm gonna go off of what you said. You're never alone in anything. There's always somebody that you can reach out to. There's always resources that can help you. So please do not hesitate to get help. Do not hesitate to reach out to the proper professionals. There's always somebody willing to listen. Don't feel like you have no one, because there's always someone to listen.
Always. And I think what I'll add too is if there is physical abuse or domestic violence, to reach out to a shelter. They know what to do. They know exactly what to do, and all you need to do is to reach out to any domestic violence shelter in your area. They will keep you safe, no doubt. I've worked in them. I know there is a definite plan. There's a definite procedure. So never feel like you would be in more danger just by reaching out. I just
Yeah.
felt the need to say that.
Most definitely. And just reach out, get the proper help. Don't feel like you're alone, and talk to somebody, even if it's a friend. Friends are willing to listen. They're willing to help you. So just always
Mhm.
reach out. Well,
Always, yeah.
thank you so much for being on my show. Thank you to the whole entire audience. You all are
Yeah.
wonderful. I wouldn't have a show if it was not for you all, if it was not for wonderful guests like Diane Call. I appreciate you all so much. And until next time, love, hugs, and blessings.
Mhm.